The following program does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Reality Radio 101, its advertisers and sponsors, or its listening audience. Listener discretion is advised. Good afternoon and welcome to the Liquid Green Health Show with your hosts Fred and Janet Cox right here on Reality Radio 101. To contact us live, send us an email. Our email address is liquidgreenhealthshow@gmail.com. And now, right to your hosts of the Liquid Green Health Show, Fred and Janet Cox.
Noon to everyone within our listening area, everyone, whether you're in Canada, whether you are in the United States or around the world, we want to say welcome to the Liquid Green Health Show this afternoon. It's Sunday, I almost said Thursday. It is Sunday, and yes, it is 5:30 p.m., and it's a good August afternoon. So once again, good afternoon. Every Sunday at this time, we have fun on air where we offer tips in an edutainment format designed to stimulate the mind and, of course, help bring us one step closer to living a healthier lifestyle. All right. Anything you want to say?
It
Nothing?
was a busy week, right?
Mhm.
Busy week.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
It was a fun week.
yeah.
Fun week. Partying, right?
That
Party
was-
and more party.
Last week.
Last week.
Yesterday, actually, I had to cancel another
Mhm.
fete. It was a Trinidadian fete, but I had to cancel because we had our
Why?
AGM. We've spoken. We had a guest on our show previously about one of the community involvement that I'm a part of.
One of many.
Cooperative of Ontario.
Okay.
Or I always can't remember our name. Is it the Cooperative Cleaners of Ontario or the Cleaning Cooperative of Ontario? And I'm sure if Jennifer's listening, she's going to go, Janet, you should know this by now. But we had an AGM. We've grown. We have 27 members, and these are
Wow.
all ladies. And it's a cleaning co-op, and we're providing employment.
Mhm.
And we've attracted some younger females, and we even had a guy there. You should have been there.
No, it's not for me.
But
You guys
need
only,
help.
only when you guys need help, you call me. So no,
Well,
I'm not
you
coming.
can't be a member, but
Yeah.
you certainly can come and help out, right, or work. So it was a good meeting, and we're hoping our cooperative will continue to grow, and that if anybody wants more information on that, just check us out. It's ccoo.coop.
You did not
Nice
pay for that.
free
You did not pay for that
advertising.
for that advertisement.
CCOO.coop.
Advertisement.
Right,
You did
right.
not pay for it. Okay. Well, folks, let me just remind you that today's show will be rebroadcast on. You can listen rather to rebroadcast on Spotify. If you just want the audio, if you want to see who it is that hosting the show, then you can go to YouTube. Just punch in, type in Liquid Green Health Show, and it's going to come up. Okay. Liquid Green Health Show. Press give us the like, share, click on all those buttons, subscribe, whatever it is you see pop up, ring the bell, do whatever, right?
Yes.
Just give us that much needed boost.
Yes, and the folks who listen on Reality Radio 101, the listeners, we're still asking them after the show during the week, go to the YouTube channel and subscribe.
Yes,
right?
please do
Because
that for
we
us.
have a lot of listeners,
A lot.
thousands of listeners,
Lot.
and we're hoping to build the YouTube channel.
Isn't it amazing how we've grown, right? In a year and a half, it's a little more than a year and a half.
Thanks to Gary and Mike.
Yeah, wonderful producers.
Right?
Okay.
And a little bit of thanks to you as well, Fred Cox.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll take that. I'll take it
Okay.
anyway.
Mhm.
Now, we have an interesting show today. This is the Liquid Green Health Show. If you're now tuning in, folks, we are the Coxes. And our topic today is addiction. right?
And
And
of
we ask the
course-
big question, is it a disease?
And of course, a lot of our listeners are now addicted to the Liquid Green
Well,
Health
that
Show,
kind of
right?
addiction, we'll accommodate. We'll take that.
So never miss an episode.
Yeah,
They're addicted and we love it.
we love that. We love that. Right. So the
Okay.
big question is addiction a disease? We asked that question in our email and we got some response. One of our listeners wrote in and said they think it is a disease,
Yeah.
but they want to hear what we have to say.
Well, science says it is, right? The medical world
Yeah,
says
they
is.
say it is. I like to refer to it as a condition, but science has proven me wrong. That's my idea. I don't like to, put everything and call it a disease, because once you do that, then they create drugs for it and they have to treat you
And
for
they
it.
do have a lot
And
of drugs.
there's a
going
lot
on.
of drugs.
Drugs for the drugs.
Yes.
Right?
They have drugs for the drugs, and
Yeah.
it just causes more confusion all over. But according to medical experts, they say, it's a medical condition that affects the brain and it changes a person's behavior. Right. And that is something that we're going to be discussing, the type of behavior that is in association with different types of addiction. And they also say that it relates to the way your body craves a substance, thing, or activity.
Yes.
Right. So you can have a craving, but it won't necessarily be an addiction. But depend on how severe that craving is, it can change your behavior and make you addicted,
Yes.
especially if it causes any kind of compulsive or obsessive pursuit in the reward of something or the lack of.
Well, that actually is the definition, because trust me, when you're addicted. Your family knows when you're addicted.
But does
your spouse knows when you're addicted.
Yeah, but does the person who is addicted
They
know
know
that
it.
they know?
But they usually probably can't accept it
Okay.
or can't do anything about it, because that's what an addiction is, right?
Mhm.
So it's basically, the NHS defines it as not having control over doing, taking, or using something that can be harmful to you. And it doesn't matter. When you're affected, you cause harm to yourself and
Family.
others who are around you. This is the key point. When this happens, you really don't care about the outcome. That's the addiction.
So
You
you were
want
addicted.
change.
You were addicted the other day when you said to me, "I don't care."
What were you talking about? I forget. What were we talking about?
We had a
What
discussion.
Bring up what I have. That has no context.
No, but it's just
Zero context.
just the phrase, "I don't care."
No, you're taking that out of context. Let me finish what I was saying. It says about the outcome and neglecting all other areas of their lives.
Yes.
So when you're addicted,
Mhm.
your child's birthday party or soccer game, it loses
Importance. Right.
loses interest, right?
Okay.
But anyway,
But-
go ahead.
What the study is also saying is like other illnesses, it gets worse over time. And they compare it to a cancer patient.
Left untreated, of course.
Right. Left
Right?
untreated, it goes into various stages, stage 1 to 4, and then it really gets to that stage. It's really, really bad.
Yes.
Right. And those symptoms, they fall within 4 distinct categories.
Mhm.
And so today, we will try to initiate a discussion surrounding addiction as we try to spread the word that addiction is a health condition that is both preventable and it's treatable. Now,
It's chronic, and it is definitely one of those chronic diseases
yes,
that we can do something about. As a matter of fact, Frederick, it says it's described as a global humanitarian crisis. It affects millions, and it is the most stigmatized of all conditions.
it is. It is. And
And
we're
that's
going to
one
be
of the
talking about,
things,
we're going to be
right?
talking about that.
Yeah. Mhm.
Now, I need to throw the caveat out there, folks. We're not doctors. We're not psychologists. We're not
Mhm.
experts in this field. We are just sharing information that, as I said earlier,
We have garnered.
we've done a little bit of research, and hopefully this information will trigger something in a listener, maybe one or two,
Yes.
that may have a condition that needs attention. Globally, about 5.5% of the population aged between 15 and 64 years have used drugs at least once in the past year. Now, we mentioned drugs here. This show is we're not going to be focusing specifically on drug use. However, it is a big part of addiction.
Yes.
A huge
Actually,
part of
The
addiction.
most.
It's probably the
it's one of
largest,
most talked about.
the largest part of addiction in the world, because a lot of people use drugs. There are about 36.3 million people, or 13% of the total number of persons who use drugs. They suffer from disorders like opioid disorders and all other types of disorders. And these things continue to account for the largest burden of disease attributed to drug use. About 11 million people worldwide inject drugs, and half of them are living with hepatitis C. And then you have alcohol abuse. That amounts for like 3 million worldwide deaths annually, which is 5.5% of all deaths.
Right.
So again, even though we're not talking about drugs specifically and alcohol abuse specifically, we must take into consideration that these are factors that create these conditions.
Yes, and actually in the US, it says the injury related deaths, the drug abuse, the opioid addiction is now the _1 cause of injury-related deaths. That means it has surpassed car accidents.
Wow.
It has surpassed deaths due to gun violence, right? And
Isn't that
it's
bad?
yes, and it's getting worse. So even though the problem is there, it's getting worse.
Right.
But anyway, you say we're not going to get into opioid.
Yeah, we're going to touch on it. We're going to touch on it, right? Now, again, as I started off in the beginning of the show, I said addiction is a mental disorder that affects everything, right? But specifically on an individual, it affects the brain. And so we don't want to, during this show, to ridicule anyone or any group. We are simply using this platform to raise awareness about the prevalence and the impact and the consequences that these conditions, can cause, right?
Because
and we believe that education rather, is the type of information that we need to put out there, right? Because it is often accompanied by stigma. As you mentioned earlier, stigma is one of the biggest obstacles to somebody recovering from these conditions.
Or just going to get help.
Or going to get help.
Because it's so, look at alcohol, for example. Look how it's being sold. Look at the availability.
Yeah.
It's backed by
widely available in all forms.
And yet there is alcohol abuse, but it doesn't have the same stigma as, say, somebody who you see homeless on the street.
Because the government is making a lot of money off of alcohol, right? And companies are packaging alcoholic beverages in different forms to attract the younger generation. They've watered it down, they've flavored it, and they've put it in all kinds of fancy packaging, psychedelic packages that teenagers now are, attracted to.
And teenagers, of course, as we know, is one of the vulnerable groups.
Yeah.
Like, young people are one of the most vulnerable groups when it comes to addiction.
Same thing they do.
They say that you start earlier.
Yeah.
Anything you start early in life, you have that, you're going to be predisposed to probably become addicted.
They do it with all kinds of stuff. It's marketing. They do it with credit cards. They target the students. They do it with
and you can have credit card addiction. And
precisely.
That starts from the universities when they go to the colleges.
It's a marketing thing. And I mean, before the show we were talking about the Netflix series that's on Painkillers, right?
Excellent.
Powerful marketing. And they use specific individuals to target. They use specific individuals to sell the product to doctors.
Mhm.
So it's all about marketing, and that
And-
type of marketing leads to addiction.
And that still happens because the drug companies, what do? How do they get the word out about their drugs? It's through the doctors.
Yeah.
And they have the sales rep that go out, and hopefully
Pretty sales, not just sales rep, pretty.
they have men too. They have
Yeah.
men too, I guess, for what? The female doctors? Don't
Maybe.
think so. But but they're armed with information, and sometimes, as in this case, with Oxycontin,
Mhm.
it was definitely the incorrect information that was being passed on,
Yes.
right? About the rate of addiction,
And the
etc. What
coercion,
they said, it was like a 1% addiction
yeah,
rate,
which was a lie.
which was
Big-
definitely
a big
wrong,
lie.
and it was more like 10%.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mhm.
We're going to go into a commercial early.
already? No, I
um,
thought we agreed
No,
on 6.
no,
Okay.
we said, we were going to do it at 6 o'clock, but I think we could do it a little earlier. But before we do that, let me just touch on this here. As I said earlier, this program today is not to ridicule anyone or any group.
Yes.
We're simply using this platform to raise awareness. And we believe that education is the biggest tool that
Mhm.
can be used to avoid these things. Addiction is often accompanied by a stigma, as we said earlier, which can
Mhm.
prevent individuals from seeking help. And today, we are trying to offer valuable information to our listeners, and hopefully, it will arm anyone or someone seeking help with the tools they need to make healthier choices and seek help when needed. We will also try to dispel the myths and provide accurate, up-to-date information and contribute to the prevention and reduction of addiction-related problems. Because this addiction thing is a physical dependence that can make it very hard, very, very hard for people to wean themselves off of whatever it is that they are addicted to, right? And if it's hurting that individual, it's not just them, it's their families, it's a community, it's their life. So we want people to know that recovery is possible, but it looks very different for everyone. Everyone, that process, that stage that you got to go through to recover, to get your life back, is going to be different. And so when we come back from this commercial, we're going to be talking about what causes addiction.
And
So
what are
folks,
the different types of addiction
Yeah.
that that people can get
Right.
addicted to?
folks, you're listening to the Liquid Green Health Show. We are the Coxes, and you're listening to Reality Radio 101.
Join the eco revolution with the Liquid Green Products Reseller Program. Are you passionate about sustainability? Ready to make an impact while earning extra cash? Then look no further. Get on board with Liquid Green Products and become a part of our reseller program. Why us? We're not just another eco-friendly company. We are a movement for a greener future. Join our reseller program and be an advocate for sustainable living and enjoy the benefits of a profitable business venture. What makes us special? Our eco-friendly products are top-notch, made with plant-based ingredients. They're safe for your customers and the planet. From household to industrial use, we've got the perfect eco solution for everyone. As a Liquid Green Products reseller, you'll make great profits and gain access to our marketing goodies, including product catalogs, promotions, and digital assets. We'll train you on our products so you can impress customers with the benefits. We're all about strong partnerships, so we're here to support your success. Together, we'll create a sustainable future, reduce footprints, and inspire eco-conscious choices that make a difference. To learn more and to sign up for this amazing income potential, please visit our website at www.liquidgreenproducts.com/reseller or call us at 416-460-5645. That's 416-460-5645. Start making a difference and start earning a profit today with the Liquid Green Products Reseller Program, saving the planet with one clean at a time. Welcome back to the Liquid Green Health Show with your hosts Fred and Janet Cox, right here on Reality Radio 101. Contact us live right now. Our email address is liquidgreenhealthshow@gmail.com. Now, right back to your hosts of the Liquid Green Health Show, Fred and Janet Cox.
And yes, we are back. This is the Liquid Green Health Show. We are the Coxes, and today our discussion centers around addiction. Expert says that it is a disease.
So before you continue, I'm going to ask you a question.
A good question.
What are you addicted to?
Nothing. Nothing.
One of the emails says... One of the emails say, I hope you guys are not addicted except to each other. And I don't know, I'm not addicted to you.
Me either.
Okay, good. So we should last. All right.
No addiction here. The next big question is, what causes addiction? What causes addiction?
It's the brain. I know you're going to say it's the mind, but I'm going to say that
the brain is affected.
Every scientific study that we've looked at, they talk about the different areas in the brain, the physical brain.
Yeah, but that's not what causes it.
We know there's an area.
Yeah.
There are several pathways. And I'm sorry we're not doctors, because then we could explain this really, really well.
Yeah.
But there are different areas, lots of big words, lots of big things to understand.
Too many big words.
And one day we're going to get doctors. We said we need to get doctors. If anybody out there knows doctors who are willing to come on and help with the education, send us a recommendation. I know they're busy people, right? But if you know somebody who would like to come on, especially with the trauma, the brain, so many issues with the brain, right? But Frederick, there is a section, it's the limbic pathway. This is to really dumb it down, to simplify it.
The frontal lobe.
The mesolimbic pathway, that is the area in the brain that has to do with rewards. And if we're talking about rewards, we're talking about dopamine. And dopamine is the reason why we have addiction in the simplest form.
Okay.
Because dopamine, as they say, it's one of the tools.
It's a dope. It's a dope that the body needs. When you don't have enough of it.
It's one of the survival things that we need. We need food.
Yeah.
We need water.
And you need dope.
And we need dopamine.
Dope.
Because the dopamine, it's gonna, they say way back in evolutionary times, right? If we didn't have dopamine, we wouldn't have survived as a species.
That's true.
Right?
Yes.
Because when that hunter went out or the gatherer went out and they found food and it helped them to stay alive.
It made them happy.
It made them happy enough to go out
and get more next time.
And then they could go out and get more. So it's an action that allows you to repeat the action, right?
Okay.
So
that is a form of addiction, right?
That's what causes the addiction, because of the necessity to keep getting that dopamine.
It creates a kind of a pleasurable high.
Yes.
Right. That's physical, and it's also psychological, right? And you want to have more because this thing, it tastes good or it makes you feel good.
Yes.
And so you want to have more.
Like you and cookies.
I'm not addicted to cookies.
Somebody listen.
No,
Rod,
I may have a craving.
Rod is a frequent listener.
Yeah.
And he already sent an email showing Fred's addictions.
Okay, tell him not to write. Tell him not to write on him.
Brown chocolate cookies. But do you realize there's a scale?
Yes.
It's a scale from about 40 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know where sex falls in that scale?
50.
Gary, Mike, do you want to guess? We're just between 40 and 100 in terms of
I'll tell
the
you where it is.
dopamine scale. Huh?
Here it is. You want the answer?
Sure.
Here we go.
That's good.
Oh dear. Yeah,
Yes, we
I would
are-
say close to 90, 95. I don't know.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Mike, I mean, Gary? Oh, you gave your answer. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're all
you're right
addicted
in
to
there.
love, right?
Yeah.
Right?
It's not quite 100, but it's close.
Close.
95, 92, whatever. And sex is actually 92. And food is more. Food is actually 94.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
so many.
scale, right?
But
And
you
somebody
know what?
who wins the lottery is
Yeah.
about 100.
Yeah, because they're really high. There's a
Yes.
lot of euphoria going on there.
So-
Whoopee.
I'm going
Right.
to ask our audience to guess. I'm not going to say the answer yet. But what do you think the scale is when you actually take some meth? I'm just going to throw that out and we'll come back and ask that in a few minutes.
Okay.
See if any emails come in as to the guesses
Right.
on that one.
But
Okay, go ahead.
Let me now we're talking about addiction and,
Mhm.
and how what does it do to the brain? You
Right.
mentioned parts of the brain where the dopamine, if it's too low,
Yes.
then you're gonna have a craving, right?
Yes.
You don't have enough dopamine, then you want to have more
Right.
and that kind of stuff.
So it's all
but
about behavior.
Right.
Correct.
But
Mhm.
it also another term for it is hijacking.
Yes.
Right.
Hijacks the brain.
It
right?
hijacks the brain in a number of ways because it tricks the brain. It tricks there's a part of the brain that scientists refer to as the midbrain,
Okay.
right? I'm not going to use the big fancy words for it because
Because you don't know it.
I don't know it and I don't want to try pronouncing it, but
Okay.
it's called the midbrain.
Yeah.
Now, what they call the midbrain is what I personally would refer to as
Here we go.
a spiritual thing because it's very difficult to explain. Very, very difficult to explain because what they're saying is that understanding how addiction works on the brain level and that part of the level is very difficult to explain, right? And it helps us it helps to, well, it kind of sometimes tries to answer unanswered questions, right? It puts it in a spiritual category.
I'm not following, but go ahead.
But you're not supposed to follow.
Okay.
It puts it in a spiritual category because that part of the brain works on a kind of an unconscious level. That's what they're saying.
Okay.
And so I would attribute that to a spiritual connection that is unexplainable.
Well, religion
Right.
is one of the biggest addicting things, right?
Yeah, but it goes beyond that. It's very difficult to explain,
just
but they
trying to
refer to it as the midbrain. And they also talks about the frontal lobe of the brain.
Mhm.
It is said that addiction weakens that area
Yes.
of the brain, right? It progressively harms one's ability to make decisions and to stay focused
Mhm.
on what it is they want. It more or less traps the victim into focusing more on short-term gain,
Yes.
right, than long-term benefits, right? And so those are some of the ways that it affects the brain, right? Now, some people may try a substance or a behavior and never approach it again, right? Some people may want to go into more risky behavior and say, okay, I know that this is bad for me, but I still want to try it.
Yeah.
And they try it and, they get hooked in it.
Right. You're correct. Mhm.
Right. So it also harms the brain's reward system as an addiction progresses to more severe condition, it damages the brain's reward system, making it hard for the person to feel any sense of pleasure. Right. So that's how bad this thing is. If you don't have that thing that you're craving, you don't get it, right? That person feels a sense of, they want it. They want to have more of it. And this lowers one's
And that is because,
set point.
that is because of what's the physical, the science that's happening within the brain.
Mhm.
Because you have these receptors And the ones that actually will release the dopamine,
Right.
those are the receptors that become, the more you overload it,
Okay.
like there's enough. Everybody must have dopamine. You must have, for a mother to bond with her baby,
Mhm.
she must have that release of dopamine so that she will help the baby to survive,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
So, but the problem is when we get an overdose of it, when it's flooded, then the receptors begin to cause, they begin to malfunction. Right.
Okay.
And then the release of dopamine is completely disruptive. And that's why you need more and more to satisfy.
It's like a neurotransmitter
To satisfy the normal
behavior.
Right, the normal behavior with the correct amount of dopamine.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
And so, but during that process, what is said is that a person can temporarily be taken out of reality.
Of course.
Once you're in that,
they're zoned out.
that addictive state, whereby, ordinary pleasant events like watching a movie, going to spend time, or having your grandkids over, or spending time with your family, it does not become important to them anymore.
I mean, I'm going to mention something like this.
And before you go that, but again, that is going back to the lack of dopamine. Right? When you don't have enough dopamine, those pleasurable things that are considered normal does not, is of no more importance to the individual.
It's not that it's not important. It's that
they won't enjoy them.
It needs more. It needs something bigger. You would need to have a bigger doses for the little things to be important, right?
Okay.
Then they would need, because it's, okay, how should I say it? Because we've been saturated. When you take meth, we can't avoid talking about that right now. When you take the drugs, the high is so powerful that moving forward from that, you're going to have to take more and more and more. And that's why these folks that reach that state, they will steal and they'll sell their grandmother's jewelry. Yeah. Because nothing else becomes as important as that survival. They
have that
need
fix
that in order to stay alive.
Yeah.
And that's what the drug does. Right?
A perfect example is the coming back to the Netflix series where there was such a scene where the gentleman, he sold all his tools. Yes. He had the mechanic shop, took out all his tools, took off his ring, everything, and he took it to the pawn shop. Yes. They were valued thousands of dollars. How much did he get for it? $1,500. And then right. So that's a perfect example. Right.
Oh, I want to mention a couple of weeks ago in the streets of busy downtown Toronto, I saw a young Black girl. She was about probably 26. This is the extent to which people will go, right? Now, the reasons, we haven't mentioned some of the addictions and some of the reasons we have.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Right? Yeah. But I am assuming that she was either mentally incapacitated or she must have been on drugs. She obviously was there talking to some invisible person. So I'm going to assume she was on drugs. And she was stark naked in the middle of downtown and her clothes beside her. And she's talking to this imaginary person. Try to help her. And of course, in cases like that, I don't know, what do you do? But this is the state where addictions can lead us to do things that are so that the average person would think this will never happen to me. Right? This could never happen to me.
You never know.
And then you never know, because there's also things that somebody will try something once. That's the thing with addiction. You could try a drug once and be addicted, and I could use it recreationally for years and not have that same type of, and that's what some of the things they're trying to figure out still.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the factors that can cause addiction? Right, everything from environmental factors, which can have a significant impact on the individual's addiction. Things like home, school, work atmospheres, right? Then you have lack of parental involvement, right? From a child growing up parents are not involved, don't listen to the child. Some kids grow up without a simple thing as a hug, right? Or comforting. And those things can cause
yes, that's a lack of reward.
Yeah.
When we don't get the rewards in life, when you don't have a job, when you're not in a stable relationship,
right.
when you have no money, those are the things. When you're not complimented,
Yeah.
right? Those are the things.
Very
those are
important
the things.
factors in human growth, in human development. It's rewards, right? We need, everybody likes to be praised at some point in time in your life. And when you don't get that reward that you're seeking, especially young children, it has a devastating effect on them.
Yeah, and you talk about young children, as we said, the younger you are, the more likely. If you try drugs early, the chances are it's more likely that you'll become addicted than if you were to say try later in life.
Right. And then you have peer pressure, right?
And social media.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Peer pressure. Again, if you're not getting that support from home, you go out with your friends and they're doing all manner of things, and then you're influenced by them, you're going to gravitate to that kind of behavior, right? History of past behaviors, and again, drug use, family dynamics and interactions. You don't have a lot of family interactions. All those things can affect or cause addiction at some point in time in life. You got friends, social media, as you mentioned, media in general, right? The media in general you could be addictive to the type of news that you're hearing, constantly being bombarded with. Then you have culture and you have religion, right? And then you have what I call learned environments, right? And that is a cultural, physical location in which students are motivated to learn, especially in the school system, where they're exposed to all manner of other personalities and different learning procedures, be it physical, virtual, formal, or informal techniques. These things have an effect, a direct effect on how you develop as an individual and how much you're exposed to other types of, they play a role in a person's response to substance or behavior.
So what
conditions.
causes a person to have, say, a food addiction or a sexual or porn addiction, or,
Food addiction, I don't know. It's not.
It's real.
Yeah, it's real, but I don't know if it's it's not mentioned in in scientific
Of course
studies.
It is.
No.
Food addiction is one of the biggest forms of addiction.
No, it's not. It's you have health gurus that go around calling it food addiction, right? But you may have a craving, but not necessary. You might have a craving for certain carbohydrates, certain
Frederick, people who are 600 pounds,
yes,
and
that's a craving.
It's not I have a craving. You have a craving for ice cream. You're not addicted to it.
Yeah.
You're not going to be 600 pounds. The folks who have the addiction, how could you not say that food is not addictive?
Because it's a term some use to refer to a compulsive or uncontrollable urge to eat food.
So
that does not relate to feelings of hunger. Right.
Exactly. But it's not relating to feelings of hunger, but it relates to feelings of feeling good, which is the dopamine fix.
Yeah, but in the medical field, it's not defined as an addiction.
No, right? I disagree.
Like there is
change the way we the definition for addiction.
There is a paper that is put out. It's called DSM-5.
Yes.
Right, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder.
They
do not include it as a standalone category for diagnosing food addiction. They do not include it. So it's not recognized as an addiction. But it's a craving.
You know how life is.
Yeah.
Look how many things they've gotten wrong. Do you remember that back in the day, they used to force doctors.
Yeah.
The medical world was forced by the government to order for pain. They were forced to order the treatment of pain, and they were forced to write the opioid prescriptions, which included heroin and which they knew about. and which they knew was not going to be good. So it doesn't matter to me what they say. It's what is real. What's the reality? Do we know people who are addicted to food? Yes.
I don't.
I do.
I don't know anybody.
Well, I'm
so
not going to
I don't know anybody.
now, but I do. Anyway.
But the body needs food. The body needs food to
The
provide
body needs
energy.
sex.
The body.
The body needs water. The
Yeah.
body needs everything. The body needs everything that we've talked about. You don't need to play games. You like to play games. Then most people who play games don't become addicted, but there are a few who do. We do need food, and not everybody who eats food will become addicted, but there are people who have become addicted to food. But anyway, let's move on from
I don't
food.
think so.
We're gonna
I'm going with the science.
To disagree on that.
I mean, any food you can make you crave for it, but I don't think you can become addicted.
By the regular definition, yes, but go ahead. We're
Okay.
talking about that release. It feels good.
Yeah.
Why is it when we come home, like I come home at night, I'm perfectly full?
Because you're hungry.
But then I'm not
And
hungry.
you greedy.
Greedy, yeah, because I'm addicted to
Just
something.
greed.
And you go on your peck, right?
Okay.
But anyway.
Here's another one.
Mhm.
You have now you have the different stages, right,
Mhm.
of addiction. Everything from experimentation to dependency. That's the
Mhm.
range, right? And if you're going to experiment, then you're going to use or you're going to engage in certain activities out of curiosity.
Yes, and that is when you know that there is a chance
Yeah.
that this could not be right for you. You realize there could be consequences, but you do it anyway.
Right. And the person that would not go beyond the experimentation,
Oh.
I would argue that they have a very good control of the mind.
But guess what? There's one of the things we have not mentioned, genetics.
Yeah.
Again, the science says addiction, you're predisposed depending on your genetics.
But that doesn't
as we
mean
are
you can become
that genetic does not determine.
right.
It doesn't have to mandate what your life is going to be, because you can change.
You can make
and
the
we had a
change.
show on
And that
right?
again
Mhm.
comes back to the mind,
Mhm.
right? Because the mind is what determines what your life is going to be. Well,
Okay.
that's a whole different show. Then you have social or regular uses, or people who engage in social situations or for social reasons. For example, you may go out with friends, you're not a drinker, but because you're with them, a little bit of peer pressure, okay, you're going to have a drink, or you may have a cigarette, right? People who don't smoke at all,
Mhm.
because friends may say, hey man, have a toke,
Yeah.
right? But or you may take a puff of weed or whatever, right? Then you have problem or risk uses or engages in an extreme way with disregard for consequences. You don't care, you're going to go out and do it anyway,
Right.
knowing full well that there are going to be consequences. And then the last stage is dependency.
That you can't
Right.
do without it. No
You
matter
can't do, you
what.
want it on a daily basis or several times per day, despite possible negative consequences. You have become dependent on it. That's a very, and I could give examples. You have gambling.
Oh, gambling is a good one,
Right.
because with gambling, in many countries, in many of the jurisdictions that we know, gambling, what is it? It's
entertainment.
Governments build the biggest gambling. They make
Facilities.
money,
Yeah.
and it's entertainment, right? So we bet whatever. But like gaming, it's the repetitive gambling behavior
Yeah.
that potentially leads to the disorder, which leads to the addiction.
Yeah.
I know people who cannot go 1 week without going to the casino.
Okay.
And guess what? These same folks, they're not only addicted to going,
Mhm.
when they win, they don't keep the money. They're addicted to putting it back.
Oh, boy.
And that's when gambling can ruin lives.
Yeah.
Because as entertainment, not a problem, like drinking, not a problem.
Mhm.
But when it becomes addictive, when the behavior becomes addictive, then it's the problem.
And then you have
Right?
the gaming addiction, which is similar to,
The same, yeah, we mentioned that. Most of the
Right.
things
and then you have, go ahead.
What I was going to say is, with addiction, it's
It's a wide range.
the concept is the same,
Mhm.
right? So it doesn't matter if it's gaming or sex or going to church or
What about shopping?
reading, shopping,
Yeah.
any of those things. It's the
That's-
same basic looking for the reward
Yeah.
through that dopamine fix.
Mhm.
That's what leads to the addiction.
Right. And then, as you mentioned, you have sex addiction,
Yeah.
right? Now, is there such a thing as sex addiction?
Of course, that's one of the biggest ones.
Okay. And
right?
it's a compulsive sexual behavior that people,
Mhm.
you know, I
Are
before the
you
show
addicted? No.
to sex.
Yes.
No,
Okay,
I
good.
love it. But another thing is pornography, right? Which is in the same realm as
Yes.
sex addiction.
Mhm.
And before the show, I was speaking to our producers, and I asked, is it only men that are addicted to porn?
Absolutely not.
Right? And
Absolutely.
I don't remember who it was. It was Gary or
Yeah.
Mike said that they know someone, a female individual, who is definitely heavily into pornography.
But
Yeah, and I
again,
want to
like,
be her. I want to be her best friend.
yeah.
Me too.
But you see, here, this is how I look at porn. Like everything else, in moderation, it's not a problem.
It's not a problem.
Because if you look at porn and you're in a stable relationship and it's going to help you to
Unload.
get certain,
Pleasures.
feelings, build whatever, the moment, the movement, then it's not a problem. But
Yeah.
it's when you can't go to work.
You can't go to work.
You can't hold down a job.
You turn on the TV. You turn on the TV, and that's the first channel you want to go to.
Or every day,
Yeah.
you have to watch. Okay, so
Then you
that's
have
it.
relationship addiction, right? That's a big one.
No, I don't understand that. What does that mean?
Well, for some people can't live without having someone else in their life. They can't live without having a
So even
relationship.
if they're in an abusive relationship, they'd rather stay in that relationship than
Yes.
be alone.
And that is
That's a tragedy.
that is tragedy. That is very, very addictive, right? It's a type of behavioral addiction that has been recently recognized by scholars.
And
right?
you're going to tell me that they will recognize a relationship as an addiction and not food? Give me a break.
Because the effect is worse.
Uh,
The effect is,
This is not unhealthy eating is one of the biggest things that can kill you.
yeah, but it only affects one person.
No, if Frederick, you don't understand addiction, we're going to have to do more on this topic so that my co-host can learn more about what exactly it is.
No, I understand. I know what you're saying. I'm just being silly.
You know what's funny? I know you are. You know what's funny? We talk about it. Is addiction a disease? And we've come to the conclusion.
I would
and
have
the
to
scientist
admit,
says,
yes.
Yes, it is a disease.
At one point I'm saying no, it's a condition, but after doing the research and seeing all of the different aspects of this,
Now-
condition, definitely. it is a
Now,
disease.
here's the irony of this. Do you ever get arrested because you have a food addiction?
No.
But I'm going to arrest you because you're fat. You have diabetes.
No,
All right.
not gonna
It's a
arrest.
disease.
Yeah.
You have cancer. I'm going to arrest you because you got cancer.
No.
But guess what? You have an opioid addiction or a crack addiction,
Yeah.
that is what was introduced into the Black community on purpose years ago, back in that era. Still a problem, but you're never arrested for a disease. The addiction, the drug addiction is the only disease that people get arrested and thrown in jail for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Right? And that is another topic we're going to spend some time talking about.
That has
addiction.
political and social ramifications. It's a huge stigma. That's one of the biggest stigma you have. When we talk about stigmas, you have the social stigma, you have the institutional stigma, and there's another one I don't remember, but they all have devastating effects on the person.
And,
right.
And it wasn't until when it was they only really started studying about addiction in the early 1930s, right? And because people used to take opium from the poppy, from the plant, right? Yes. And it was legal to use it recreationally, even in the 1900s, right? Early 1900s. That was the drug of choice. And then that was the first thing that they said, okay, you can't use that recreationally. And then from the 1930s, they started investigating. And we talk about painkillers, the documentary, and we're recommending you look at it.
Oh yeah, we recommend that. That's a highly, highly recommended documentary that everybody who have access to Netflix, you should take a look at that. Now, with all of what's going on, what we know about the different types of addiction and how it affects the human body, it affects individuals, it affects families, it affects society.
Yes.
How can we treat? What types of treatment?
Well,
And even before we get into that, I think before they can really start addressing the treatments that's available, we need to address the stigmas, right? Because that's a big part of recovery. Because people struggling with addiction, they face discrimination and they face barriers to getting help, right? They can, stigma can lead a person to avoid getting help because they're afraid. They're afraid of what others are going to say. They're afraid of what their friends and parents and co-workers are going to say. They're afraid of getting into trouble, right, with the loved ones and especially with the law. And so they hide it.
Yeah.
Right. They go, they secretly, do whatever has to be done to crave that addiction.
And that's why folks like parents, we have to be vigilant.
Yes.
Whether it's gaming or marijuana, even marijuana, which is now accepted and it's now legal, it still can
it has
be
an effect.
addictive.
It has,
Right?
like, I personally, I don't think anybody should smoke marijuana. Simply, no. I'll tell you what.
I think anybody should.
No, you shouldn't smoke it. I don't mind drinking the tea or stuff, but anything that is foreign to the lungs, smoke, you putting that into your system, in my opinion, you're damaging yourself. Right. So
but
I don't agree with it.
But with the treatment, like we're not getting into the
but that's different.
Se. You're saying what we're talking about?
Oh, stigmas. We're talking about stigmas.
But you're saying
I'm saying,
we do about
it? And I'm saying before you get into the medical treatment, first we have to get rid of the stigmas, because you have institutionalized stigmas, right? And those things can affect a person from getting housing, jobs, right? And it can affect their quality of life.
The same with if you are criminalized because you're an addict and you go to jail and you're labeled a criminal. When you come out, it affects, well, in the States anyway, it affects voting. Yes. It affects where you can't get a job.
Precisely, because you're stigmatized. And that's a kind of stigmatization that needs to be, eradicated. But we're humans and you will always have it. People will always look at you differently when you do something that is not in the norm with society. Yeah. Right.
And it's time is going.
We're quickly running out of time. We have to remember that addiction is not a choice.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. Nobody wants to be addicted. Doesn't matter what their status in life is.
But how does it start for most people? They don't
experiment.
Experimentation, because they don't go out willingly.
No, nobody goes out. No.
I am going to get addicted, and so let me try this.
The only person I think does that purposefully is a drunkard. Because if you get drunk, right, to a point where you can't remember what happened, and you go out next week or the day after and you do it again, no.
But okay, here we come back to the brain.
Yeah.
Because again, there are functions within the brain, and they're like the brain has specific receptors for even different drugs.
Well, that's
so for marijuana, it will affect a certain part of the brain.
It makes you want more.
Alcohol,
yeah.
The first 2 drinks, you're buzzed, you're feeling good.
Yeah.
But then within the brain, something happens. Like I think it's GABA. I don't remember the acronym, but after 4 or 5 or 6 drinks,
time to stop.
Then you become depressed. So what starts you out on a high?
Yeah,
because
it changes
in the brain with marijuana, with alcohol, then it actually changes and you become depressed.
And you want more. You want more of the same thing. Because you figure, well, if I don't get more, I can't do, X amount or whatever, right?
But in terms of the drugs that are used, this is one area where they say the science is out there. And we talk about drugs, and a lot of people don't like to take medication.
Yeah.
But apparently, medications like methadone actually works about 75% of people who are addicted to
Mhm.
drugs, to meth, to Oxycontin, and they take methadone, they can get off it. So
they're
what
using.
that actually
So can you
does,
not become addictive to methadone?
I'm guessing you can become addicted to anything, right? But unless somebody is in that position where they have enough of the dopamine in the system, and that's what this does, it raises the dopamine level to normal levels. Unless you have enough dopamine in your system, the only thing you can think of is getting
more of that thing to
Yes.
raise the dopamine.
That's why these drugs help, right? There's
Okay.
another one, it's called buprenorphine, right? And there's the benzodiazepines. That's like Valium, right? Those are the ones that we used to hear of that helps to dumb down. Because unless you're in a position to accept treatment and to understand what's going on, you can't be treated.
So then, okay. What I was about to say, it comes back to the mind.
Frederick, no matter how it comes.
But you have to be in a state. You have to be in a state where you're cognizant of what it is you want in order to recognize that, okay, I'm doing something bad here.
You've seen the movies. We know people. You've heard of people. What happens? They're off. They're being treated, and they go through rehab.
Yeah.
And a year later, you think they're doing great. Then the next thing you know, like it happened in the painkiller documentary, you kill yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it takes about 2 years of constant treatment for you to go back to normal. Not even a year of regular treatments. You can relapse very, very quickly. Yeah. I had asked, guess what? We didn't get to any emails. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Let's read a few.
Read from Nancy, who says the only drug we need is ta-da!
Liquid green. I agree with you.
Tom says the following program is addictive and will make you live your life in a healthy manner and not eat crappy food, listen to politics, and have proper bowel movements. Listener participation is strongly recommended. Tom, I love it. That's exactly what you'll get on the Liquid Green show.
Rod.
No, Rod had talked about, hello, Janet and Fred. Wow, such busy people. I hope you're doing well and have no addictions. Oh, I think I did mention that it was from Walt, except to each other. And no, I'm not addicted to you, Fred Cox. And from Edward, it says, Janet and Fred, the show is so cool and funny today. We love the barter today. It is so funny.
The banter.
Yeah.
And please,
the
don't read any email that has images of cookies. And
Yes.
look, we're quickly running out of time. We have to skip a lot of things that we wanted to talk about.
Usual, right?
And I wanted to mention, well, I did say that addiction is not a choice, right? Nobody wants to go there and become addictive, but there's a common misconception, however, that it is a choice, right? People can stop using drugs when they want to. And there's a yes and no answer to that, but I think it's more a no, that it's very difficult. Once you become addicted, you start craving for that thing, that high. You want that next fix. And unless you're taken out of that situation, you basically have to wash yourself.
Yes. And I had thrown out, I did not forget, I had thrown out the question, what number on that dopamine scale?
Yeah.
It was from 40 to 100 that we thought when you take meth, what's the level of the high? Gary, do you want to hazard a guess real quick?
What's the question?
When you take meth, the methamphetamines, it moves on a scale we said 92 was for sex, 94 was food, 100, say you win the lottery. What do you think the amount of adrenaline is? Not adrenaline, of dopamine.
When you're on a drug?
When you take like a meth, yes, when you take meth. Just give me a number.
Okay, a percentage. I don't know.
Okay.
65. I don't know.
It's actually, I think I didn't say the question correctly, but I'll just
I
tell you.
didn't understand it.
Yeah, because we're running out of time. It's actually, when you take meth, the dopamine that's released in your system is about 10 times. So it's like 1,000. The scale, instead of being 100, is normal dopamine fix in a regular human being,
Yeah.
a healthy human being. But when you're on meth, it's like 1,000 times more the release. That's how powerful it is. And that's why they can't stop. And that's why they need more and more and more. But we'll have
Okay.
to continue this.
With that
I
said,
think
folks,
next month, Frederick, we can talk about addiction.
and with that said, we have to end the show here because, we must realize that some people try drugs once or use them occasionally. Others use drugs more often and sometimes to try to cope with trauma or pain. No matter the reason, no one chooses to become addicted. Addiction and physical dependence makes it hard to stop using drugs, even when it's hurting you or people in your life. Recovery is possible, but it looks different for everyone. And I said that earlier. And with that, we'll end the show by saying, good health is central to human happiness and well-being. It contributes significantly to prosperity and wealth and even economic progress. As healthy individuals, we can be more productive and may even live a little bit longer. So until next Sunday, same time, same station, this is Janet and Fred from the Liquid Green Health Show saying, let's stay healthy on Reality Radio 101.
Without the addictions.
Have fun, folks. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you for listening to the Liquid Green Health Show with your hosts, Fred and Janet Cox, right here on Reality Radio 101.